Hey, welcome into Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Excited to be here with you for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics. Gonna be a lot of fun, as it always is when we get together. Thanks for joining us. Wade, how's your Wednesday?
What's happening, Mo? Good to be with you. Good to be with everybody. We are smack dab in the middle of the week. A lot to break down, a lot to preview. All in all, just a good time here. Like I said, right in the thick of things, early May. And we have no shortage of stuff to kind of tap into throughout the course of the next couple.
None at all. None at all. And we will be tapping into all of it. Here in the next hour, we will be joined by Heather Williams, talking a little NASCAR, looking back at the results from Texas this past weekend, getting ready for Kansas, and looking forward to catching up with Heather on all things NASCAR. In the next segment, we'll be joined by Christopher Carter from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, because one of my bad habits, first thing I do pretty much when I wake up is check my phone, and saw that there had been a trade in the NFL this morning. Steelers sending wide receiver George Pickens to the Cowboys. Hopefully Christopher can explain how that came about, why that came about, what sense it makes for the Steelers to do it, because I'm a little baffled.
What could go wrong? George Pickens in Dallas, Jerry Jones, Dak Prescott. What? I mean, that will just surely work out perfect.
CeeDee
right?
Lamb, yeah.
Cowboys win yet again, even though they stay losing, if you catch my drift.
I'm looking forward to chatting with Christopher Carter of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette here in the next segment to just get some thoughts from somebody who knows way more than we do on what this is about. I'm fascinated. So looking forward to that. We'll also be talking some Major League Baseball, a little minor league baseball as well, and NBA, NHL playoffs, SEC softball tournament action, a little college football. And it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday, as Wade and I will close the show by bringing you the weirdest, wildest, wackiest, and most wondrous news from across the globe. And actually, as I say that, we don't really have any international items for this Wild and Wacky, so I might have to scale that back a little bit. That's typically the case. We typically reach out internationally, but everything is pretty much stateside that I'm looking at for today's Wild and Wacky. So we'll bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the country. But trust me when I tell you, it's pretty weird, pretty wild, pretty wacky. Looking forward to bringing you that at the end of the show. So we got a lot going on. As Wade said, a lot to tap into. And so we probably ought to get started tapping with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Lock and load, boys and girls. It is time for your Wednesday rundown, and that means we turn back the clock. Let's go to the Tuesday scoreboard. Let's go to high school baseball action, where last night Clarksville Academy took care of Columbia Academy 7-1. Creekwood was on top of Sycamore 5-3. York Institute falls to Watertown 11-1. It was Stewart's Creek 4, Wilson Central 3, and Christian Community picks up a 7-5 win over Zion Christian. Softball action, a lot more scores last night as a lot of district tournaments really getting underway this week. It was Oakland with a 12-1 win versus Blackman. Columbia downing Shelbyville 13-3. It was Davidson Academy 6, Columbia Academy 1. Eagleville picks up a 12-0 win versus Huntland, and Green Hill defeats Mount Juliet 12-2. Beach with a 3-0 victory versus Hendersonville. Marshall County slipping by Lawrence County 6-3. Cookeville with a 12-1 win versus Laverne. Giles County defeated Murfreesboro Central Magnet last night 7-0. Smyrna with an 11-1 victory over Lebanon. It was Summertown all over Lewis County. 14-0 was your final there. Loretto, a little closer showdown versus Mount Pleasant, 8-6. Big stunner in 10A last night as Cornersville defeats Richland 8-3. Santa Fe with a 10-8 victory over Culleoka in that same 10A tournament. Rockvale wins over Siegel 8-7. It was Warren County 14-2 over Spring Hill, and Zion Christian knocks off Riverside Christian by a count of 11-1.
In boys soccer action from Tuesday night, Academy of God defeated Zion Christian 3-0. Also, Cookeville with a 4-1 win over Laverne. It was Beach 5, Green Hill 0. Hendersonville with a 5-1 win over Gallatin. Murfreesboro Central defeated Marshall County 5-2. Franklin County doubling up Giles County 6-3. Riverdale with a 1-0 win over Rockvale. Siegel blanks Blackman 2-0. Ditto for Smyrna as the Bulldogs blanked Stewart's Creek 2-0. Major League Baseball action last night. It was the Braves in 10 walking off Cincinnati 2-1, and the Brewers with a 4-3 victory over Houston. And at First Horizon Park, the Nashville Sounds opened their 6-game series against visiting Norfolk with a 5-3 victory.
Let's flip a calendar and let's go into today's schedule. Softball action, lone game on our docket today, but it gets underway at 5 p.m. when Santa Fe goes to Richland. And boys soccer, a few more games.
Hey, hang on just a second, Wade. We got at least 2 more games in softball tonight, because up at Ravenwood in District 10-4A, Brentwood and Summit will play at 5:30, followed by Franklin and Independence. Those are a couple of losers bracket games in that district tournament there. So
Mo's got the goods on the softball. We love it. Men's soccer action at 7 p.m. tonight. Smyrna will travel to Cookeville. Beach will be on the road at Hendersonville. And finally, capping our soccer slate tonight at 7 p.m., it will be Riverdale, who's on the road at Siegel.
We've got flag football state tournament action ongoing right now over at the Richard Siegel Soccer Complex in Murfreesboro. 2 o'clock starts for Fulton and Blackman, Walker Valley and Hillsboro, Green Hill and Ravenwood among our local entrants over there. At 3:15, Liberty Creek takes on East Robertson. Also, Pearl Cone faces Montgomery Central. Ezel Harding and Jackson Northside will play at 3:15. And that's a typo. No, I'm sorry. Pearl Cone and Montgomery Central will play at 3:15. Ezel Harding and Jackson Northside will play at 3:15. Creekwood and Arlington also play at 3:15. At 4:30, you've got Carter and Liberty Creek, Fulton and Pearl Cone, Walker Valley and Ezel Harding, and Green Hill and Creekwood. 5:45 starts for Stone Memorial and East Robertson, Blackman and Montgomery Central, Hillsboro and Jackson Northside, and Ravenwood and Arlington. Those are all 5:45 starts. At 7 o'clock, East Robertson takes on Carter, Montgomery Central faces Fulton, and Arlington plays Green Hill. And in your 8:15 nightcaps over there, it'll be Liberty Creek and Stone Memorial, Pearl Cone and Blackman, Ezel Harding and Hillsboro, and Creekwood and Ravenwood.
Let's go to Major League Baseball action. Astros and Brewers are underway. Game is currently being broadcast on the MLB Network. We'll get you a score and an update on that game later in the show. Also at 6:15 tonight on MLB Network and FanDuel Sports South, you can catch the Reds at the Braves. Again, first pitch comes your way at 6:15. At 6:35, the Sounds will be back in action at home. Got a number of giveaways tonight. They'll celebrate Racing Night. They're going to give away a few lightweight hoodies, it sounds like. But most importantly, if the Sounds win tonight, it's Winning Wednesday, which means you and your loved ones get to run the bases at First Horizon Park. So you better show up, and you better hope the Sounds win if you want to get out there and round the bases and show off your speed. Again, that pitch, first pitch comes your way at 6:35, Norfolk at Nashville. That will bring us to the end of our Wednesday schedule. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our Wednesday rundown.
Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia. Trevecca Nazarene made a women's basketball coaching move a few weeks ago, dismissing Karen Booker after 3 seasons. Her replacement has been named. It is Doug Novak, a 1990 University of Tennessee graduate with a lot of experience. Most recently was at George Washington in D.C., finished out the season as their interim coach after initially joining the staff as associate head coach. His second interim head coaching role, as he also filled in at Mississippi State a couple of years ago. This guy has been around, man. In addition to GW, Mississippi State, also coached at Bethel University in Minnesota. On the men's side, he was with the women at Northern Kentucky, with the men for Armies for a couple of seasons. Again, replaced Nikki McCray-Penson down at Mississippi State. He's also been at Tulane, the Citadel, Anderson University over in South Carolina, Francis Marion over in South Carolina, and spent some time in the junior college ranks as well at Iowa Western and at Roane State over in Harriman. Began his career as an assistant with the Clemson tennis program, actually played tennis at UT. So this guy has a varied background and a deep background, and he's going to put it all to work over at Trevecca now.
That versatility seemingly something that Trevecca liked because you just rattled off the rap sheet from a collegiate tennis career, part of a Tennessee team that was ranked /1 in the nation when he was there in the late 80s, early 90s, all the way into those number of different stops, JUCO here, NAIA / men's level there, and then now finally kind of slipping into the women's side, most recently at George Washington. Yeah, like you said, a number of different roles in a short span. The versatility and the pedigree, seemingly the right combination to land him this gig now in Nashville at Trevecca.
250 career victories as a head coach. Doug Novak has earned a substantial reputation across all levels of college basketball. His experience crosses men's and women's basketball, all 3 divisions of NCAA basketball, and large public and small private Christian schools. Several head coaches whom I highly regard say Doug has a bit of a cult following, being widely regarded as a top teacher of the game. We look forward to adding his wisdom and experience to our Christian scholar athlete philosophy. So said athletics director Mark Elliott in announcing the arrival of Doug Novak as the Lady Trojans head coach. And you know, when you're coming from, well, I guess the fact that he's been at that level will make the transition a little easier. But again, having been most recently at George Washington and having spent time at Mississippi State, you know, the SEC, the A10, I'd be interested to see just what the differences are for a guy coming in as head coach at that D2 level, having been where he's been.
Yeah, I'm fascinated certainly to see, because Trevecca, you know, when this movie gets announced, it was kind of a little bit of a shock, but also Trevecca kind of is trying to find its identity and trying to find some real stability, especially with its women program. We obviously are familiar with the moves they just made with their men's program, but as far as finding that kind of track record, that consistency on the women's side, it's been kind of there a little bit. It kind of hasn't been. So maybe they're hoping a guy with kind of a varied background, got some military service background too. So, I mean, maybe a chance to kind of straighten things up here as Trevecca gets ready to move into this new chapter.
You know, and as I say, I'm fascinated. I'm looking at this release from Trevecca announcing Doug Novak's appointment. He's got folks like Christy Curry at Alabama, Carl Semesco of the Atlanta Dream of the WNBA. you know, the late Pat Summit said our staff spent 2 days at Anderson University watching Doug's team practice. I always learned from him watching him put concepts together. We were a better team because of the time we spent watching Coach Novak's practices. You know, when you've got somebody like a Pat Summit, like a Bobby Crimmins, like a Tim Floyd, you know, kind of signing off on you, there's something to it. So, you know, no pressure, Doug, but there this kind of background kind of brings expectations with it, I would dare say.
Yeah, and in theory, that's kind of what you want for Trevecca, right? You want to bring in a person that, hey, if your very best is not up to our standards, then you're going to be gone, and kind of put that pressure on. They kind of have, it's kind of to my point a minute ago, they've kind of wandered into wilderness a little bit since joining the D2 ranks on the women's side in particular. So kind of setting the bar high and hopefully keeping it high seems like a good move. Whether or not that's the right move, kind of time will tell. But I kind of see their thought process here. Hey, we're putting a little bit of pressure on you, and we're treating this like a big boy job, so to speak, and it's up to you to kind of deliver.
Novak's comments regarding his arrival. I'm honored to have the opportunity to lead the women's basketball program at Trevecca Nazarene University. I'm grateful for Dr. Dan Boone and Mark Elliott's belief in me to lead and grow this program. Our success will be determined by our habits. The goal is to develop habits that hold up under pressure, which will allow us to play fast, free, and decisive. We are going to compete for our faith and the ability to be grateful for all circumstances as we attack together. I can't wait to get started. Again, former Mississippi State, former George Washington women's basketball interim coach, Doug Novak is your new women's coach at Trevecca Nazarene, and looking forward to seeing how that goes. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday, and when we come back, we'll be talking about what struck me as a pretty wild and wacky move. George Pickens to Dallas. We'll be discussing it with Christopher Carter of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette when we come back. Stay tuned.
Get ready, race fans. NASCAR is back in Music City with a new name, the Cracker Barrel 400. Guitars, fast cars, and the comfort of Cracker Barrel's country hospitality. May 30th through June 1st. The action kicks off Friday night at Nashville Superspeedway with the Rackley Roofing 200. Then the Tennessee Lottery 250 on Saturday. And Sunday night, NASCAR's top stars under the lights in the Cracker Barrel 400. Get your tickets now at NashvilleSuperspeedway.com.
Let us connect you with a team that you'll be bedazzled by when you connect with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Let's meet the team. This is Charles Calvert, known as One Take. He's the plumbing service manager. Here we have Matt Cook. He's known as Big Country. He's the HVAC service manager.
Visit Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning for all your needs.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and we are pleased to have joining us from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Christopher Carter. You can find him on Twitter or X, however you refer to it, at Carter Chronicles. And Carter Critiques. I knew it was something with a C. Before we get into this, though, Christopher, I was looking at your Twitter bio. Tell me, you're a Pitt law grad?
Yes, sir.
Why are you Christopher Carter of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette?
Because when I was in law school, I was working an unpaid internship for the Federal Public Defender's Office. It was a wonderful experience, but I needed to make money. So I started blogging on the Steelers because my dad coached football. I always studied football, and it was always an interest of mine. So I started blogging just to make extra money on the side. Just needed some cash because I was a law student. I was broke. And then I kept that up after graduating, getting into the legal field. And then as I kept doing it, I kept getting more opportunities. And over time, I started to get, TV opportunities, radio opportunities, podcast opportunities, and then more writing opportunities. And then people were like, hey, you're really good at this. So then I got some better offers. And then eventually I was like, you know what? I can make more money off of this than I can over this. And so I made the switch, and I've, whereas there are certain aspects of law where I liked helping people and, dealing with everyday folk here and there. It's a lot more fun to cover football and to talk sports every day than it is to file what I do every 6 minutes with an office somewhere.
Well said. And before we go any further, kind of a follow-up question, Christopher. How many episodes of The Pit have you seen? Have you watched the whole series yet? I feel like that might be obligatory viewing for you at this point.
My fiance watches The Pit a lot. I have not made time to watch it just yet, but I hear it's amazing. And shout out Dr. Olivia Dr. O. Because I don't want to butcher her name, but Dr. O. She's been an advisor of the show. She does an amazing job helping them. But it's supposedly realistic. I haven't had a chance to watch it though.
There's some Pitt and some Steelers references, so you get a little bit of everything for everybody in there. It's not just a ER drama, so you're good to go.
Christopher, we should probably get into what we asked you to come on for. How big a shock was George Pickens to Dallas? I mean, had there been anything indicating that there was going to be a move involving Pickens? Has he, overstayed his welcome in Pittsburgh, or what found him on the trading block and what finds him in Dallas?
I think there's a few things here. So early in the offseason, when they traded for DK Metcalf, a lot of us thought George Pickens was gone because we thought, hey, they're not going to pay both these guys. DK, if you're trading for DK Metcalf, he had 1 year left on his deal. He was due a big contract. You're going to see him get paid big money, and then he got paid big money. And then you're like, well, they can't. They're not. It's just not the Steelers' way to pay pay two receivers. And George Pickens is on the last year of his rookie deal. But then, as we went throughout the rest of the process, and we got closer to the draft, and then we got through the draft, and George Pickens wasn't traded, a lot of us thought, okay, well, clearly there's a plan to keep him, because why wouldn't you have traded him away to get a draft pick this year to use it towards getting a wide receiver to replace him? So I had thought we were through the woods of the trade George Pickens thing until maybe in the middle of the season, when maybe you could have driven up his cost like they did with Chase Claypool. Because, again, when you look out the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially under Mike Tomlin, they have been notorious for trading away big name wide receivers at the right time. Santonio Holmes, they traded away in 2010. He had like one big season after that, and that was it. Martavis Bryant, traded away, got a 3rd round pick for him, played less than like a couple games for the Raiders. They definitely won that. Antonio Brown never even got to the regular season. They got a 3rd and a 5th round pick out of him. Chase Claypool, he's been on 3 teams, never really did anything for the Bears. They got the 1st pick of the 2nd round for him to do that. Deontay Johnson, yes, it was only Dante Jackson and a pick flip that they got from that. But Dante Jackson was at least lasting the whole year as a solid veteran number 2 corner for them. Deontay Johnson's now on his 3rd team since he's left the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so you ask yourself, are they doing it again with George Pickens? And here they go, getting a 3rd round pick for him. I think that's part of the question here in Pittsburgh is, are they dumping him at the right time before something pops off?
Pickens, a 3rd rounder. I'm sorry. Pickens and a 6th rounder in 2027 going to Dallas. Pittsburgh getting a 3rd rounder in 26 and a 5th rounder in 27. Is that market value for Pickens?
I think it's about where he would be, because if you're looking at, especially because he has 1 year left on his deal, and you look at his numbers, George Pickens has made some spectacular highlights, but he's only ever eclipsed 1,000 yards one time. And granted, that you look at the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh, that plays a big part of it, right? But you look at this year. This was like last year when they played against they were playing down the stretch. They lost the game to the Colts. There was a big play where Jalen Warren, their running back, broke down the sideline, and George Pickens was out in front of him, and George Pickens just let 2 guys walk on by, didn't try to block him, and everyone was just like, "That's not a good teammate." Mike Tomlin brought him in, talked to him. They straightened him out last year. But this past season, this was George Pickens' opportunity to say, "I'm a more mature person. I'm ready to be the adult in the room. I'm ready to be the leader of the wide receiver room," and he just wasn't. Hence, the biggest example was on the Christmas Day. They're playing the Chiefs. Big opportunity, big chance to win a big game. He showed up 45 minutes before the game started. Showed up to the stadium late. Was there. And then at the end of the game, when the Steelers are losing, he was crashing out, taking off his helmet, yelling at people and getting into stuff and having to be restrained. And it's like, buddy, you getting mad here, but you came late to the game. Like, how can you do this? And this is Patrick Mahomes. This is the Chiefs. You knew what this day was. So I think for the Steelers, this might have been like a, hey, we'll see what happens here. If someone comes with the right price, we'll get the right price. So for them, I think the right price was getting a 3rd, because now the Steelers, as I said all off season, when people were saying, "Oh, they're going to pick Shedeur Sanders," I was like, no. They are not going to pick Shedeur Sanders. That is a smokescreen. Do not buy that. They're going to go get their D tackle, Derek Harmon, Kenneth Grant, one of those guys. They got Derek Harmon. They are going to wait. They're going to pick a backup quarterback in the later rounds, and they're going to go in on this 2026 draft class, which I don't think they're going to get Arch Manning, because I also don't think he's going to be there. But I like Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, LSU, Cade Klubnik. But to do that, they might need to trade up. Well, now they are projected to have 12 draft picks next year. Their 1st round pick, their 2nd round pick, 3 third-round picks, because they have their 3rd round pick. Now they have the Cowboys' 3rd round pick. And because of Dan Moore's contract with the Titans, that's projected to net them a 3rd round compensatory pick. And then you get 2 4th round picks, because they have another compensatory pick from there. You have 2 5th round picks from another compensatory pick, 2 6th round picks, and 2 7th round picks. That is a lot of draft capital to move if you want to say, hey, we're moving up, we're going to get in our quarterback. And I think that's the plan next year.
That's a lot of picks, and there's no way they're going to execute all of them for sure. So Steelers sitting pretty for the 2026 draft, it sounds like. What do you see in Dallas for Pickens and CeeDee Lamb? How does that shake out?
They could be the best receiving duo in the NFL. I mean, these are 2 phenomenal athletes. Like make no mistake, George Pickens had his problems, but that dude could catch passes that no one else in the NFL could. Like the way he snags passes out of nowhere. Now, he won't run his routes the hardest. He will lose focus, and that is part of that is part of the thing that I think the Steelers are like, we are done with that part. But if you're the Cowboys, you're saying, hey, everyone, if you're paying all this attention to CeeDee Lamb, that guy is going to destroy you. And George Pickens over here. So if you can make that balance work, that is going to be awesome. Dak Prescott's going to have this might be the best situation he'll have to throw the ball in his entire career with their tight end. And they might have a good situation here. Now, fellas, I will say this. I don't know what the Cowboys' plan is beyond 2025, because their current cap space projects to just be $10.4 million of cap space in 2026. Unless they make, and that's also not accounting for a Micah Parsons contract. So, logically speaking, unless they get rid of somebody big, they won't even be able to keep Micah Parsons. And if they do that, it's really hard to see them pay a George Pickens. So for me, this is a 1-year rental by the Cowboys. But I will say, to the Cowboys' credit, if George Pickens has a big year with them, and they can't afford to keep him, he probably goes to free agency. And if he goes to free agency, he'll probably get a big contract. If he gets a big contract, Then all of a sudden, they get a third-round comp pick in 2027. So essentially, they would have gotten a year rental out of George Pickens, given up a 2026 third-rounder, and gotten back a 2027 third-round comp pick. So in their eyes, this could work out in that way, where they was like, hey, it's just moved back a year and moved back a few spots in getting when we got our third-round pick, but we got it back. We didn't lose that much in getting this guy. And we're gambling on trying to get a playmaker because let's face it, the Cowboys need to strike very, very, very soon. Dak Prescott only got so many more chances around with CeeDee Lamb and this crew. They need to strike. This is a win-now move for the Cowboys. I think it makes sense for both sides if the Steelers really believe this is about addition by subtraction.
Speaking of addition by subtraction, real quick, George not always the greatest citizen on the field. CD not always the greatest citizen on the field. First-year coach Brian Schottenheimer. How does that work?
Good question. That's where you're gonna have to be a great coach. And again, I think this is something Ryan Clark said this morning when discussing George Pickens on ESPN. And Ryan Clark, who knows Mike Tomlin better than a guy that played under him, has had him on the Pivot podcast. But he said, quote, Mike Tomlin consistently says he doesn't run from coaching. If George Pickens, with that immense amount of talent, can no longer exist in that locker room, it's going to be difficult for him to exist anywhere. And again, you look at the track record of Steelers wide receivers that they've passed on that no one else has been able to coach. Say Antonio Holmes, out of the league real fast. Martavis Bryant couldn't even last anywhere. Antonio Brown literally bounced around 3 or 4 different teams and then literally ran off the field, chucking up the deuces in Tampa Bay after they were a Super Bowl winning team. And no one could control him. Chase Claypool, no one could get him to play that way. Deontay Johnson, still looking for a team to let him to play that way. So if you're the Cowboys, you're saying to yourself, we're going to do what the Jets couldn't do with Holmes, the Raiders couldn't do with Bryant or Brown, the Bears couldn't do with Claypool, or the Panthers or the Ravens couldn't do with Deontay Johnson. We're going to do that with George Pickens. If the Steelers come away with this one and George Pickens does not work in Dallas, everyone's going to look at the Steelers and say, we are never trading for one of your wide receivers again. We are done being fooled like this. So I think that's part of it.
I think that goes a long way, Christopher, and you're right. Kind of when I'm looking at the Cowboys, depth chart, I mean, this almost reads like it's built for Madden because you have Lamb, you have Pickens, and yeah, Tolbert and Turpin had to kind of play up a little bit last year, but you sink those guys in as maybe your third or fourth options. That seems kind of sexy to me. I don't know what their answers are at the running back position just yet, but I could see the appeal and I could see the excitement for this deal, even if it is a one-year rental, if you are the Cowboys.
Absolutely. Again, you have the opportunity to have one of the most dynamic passing threats in the NFL. Dak Prescott, I think, is still a very good quarterback. Not top 5, but in that echelon right below that. And now he already has one of the best receivers in CeeDee Lamb. I think George Pickens can be one of the best receivers because, again, George Pickens in his time, who have been his quarterbacks? Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields. Now, whatever you feel about Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, I think Dak Prescott right now is better than any of those quarterbacks. So this could be George Pickens' chance to show when I'm in a system with a franchise quarterback who's in the system that he knows and trusts and everything here, I can thrive. George Pickens has to latch onto this opportunity and show that. And if he does that, and again, does that with understanding that you're not the number one target in this offense, CeeDee Lamb is. So don't complain when you don't get the targets. Run your routes hard because anyone who watches all 22, if you watch George Pickens run routes when he knows he's not the target, he don't run the hardest. And that can be fine at times if you're conserving your energy, but that can also be viewed as selfish. And so he needs to avoid that. He needs to avoid all those monikers. He needs to go into Dallas, work his butt off, show that he can be a number 1 wide receiver while being the number 2 wide receiver. And then either A, Dallas will find a way to keep him. They'll find a way to make that money work. Jerry Jones will be like, hey, numbers nerds, make this stuff work. We gotta keep this guy around. Franchise tag, okay, how you do it? We're running this back. Or he'll set himself up for a major contract signing in 2026 where he can get a big payout. And then again, that works out for the Cowboys because they get their 3rd-round comp pick from it.
Christopher Carter of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Christopher, what impact, if any, does this have on Aaron Rodgers coming to town?
I don't know if it does. I don't know if it does. The thing is, it doesn't impact the Steelers side of things. I think the Steelers. I think the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers have had this handshake and agreement that's like, hey, Aaron Rodgers is like, hey, I'm going through some stuff right now. Let me go through that, but I'm going to be there when I'm be there. And the Steelers are like, cool, whenever you come is fine because, I'm very confident the Steelers are like, look, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come, this is a bridge year. They know that. That's why they didn't try to pay big money to keep Justin Fields. That's why they didn't trade up to go get Cam Ward or anything like that. They're saying, hey, we're doing either Mason Rudolph or Aaron Rodgers. They're going to hold it down for a year. We'll be competitive. We'll win 9-10 games. We'll sneak into the playoffs. Maybe we'll win a game in the playoffs. Maybe we won't. And then next year we go get our franchise quarterback. I think that's what this is. So for a lot of people, they're saying, oh, Aaron Rodgers is holding the Steelers hostage. I think he is simply just making his decision. The Steelers are like, hey, Aaron, come when you want, come when you don't. If you're not ready, Mason's the guy, and we will rock with it. Because again, Mason Rudolph has helped the Steelers get to the playoffs. People forget at the end of the 2023 season, the Steelers had lost several games in a row with Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph came in and said, "Not on my watch," and beat the Bengals, who were fighting for the playoffs at the time, beat the Seahawks, who were fighting for the playoffs at the time, and then beat a Ravens team that was sitting most of its starters, but still won 3 straight games to get them to the playoffs that year and get a 10-7 finish. And so, and also, the team likes Mason Rudolph. Like, when I talk to players around the locker room, like, they're happy when he's around. So I think that's part of the thing is, like, they're like, look, Aaron, come or don't. This is the deal. They wanted to strengthen the defensive core. They did that by getting Derek Harmon. They got another. They replaced Najee Harris with Caleb Johnson, who I think might be a better fit in Arthur Smith's zone run offense. And I think they're saying, hey, we are just pushing everything forward. We're keeping this organization going. That's why the Steelers haven't finished last in a division since 1989 when I was born.
You mentioned Caleb Johnson. I was just about to ask, what do you see out of that guy? Warren seems to really have come on in the last year or two for Pittsburgh, but man, it feels like he is a natural fit for black and gold up there, or black and yellow, excuse me.
I mean, literally. But okay, so that is you ran into something there, because if you're my generation says black and yellow. I literally went to high school with Wiz Khalifa. We rode the same.
I mean,
bus.
yeah, I went Wiz Khalifa mode right there. Is what I was thinking.
But see, if you was dealing with the older generation, like your partner, they around here say black and gold. They say, they yell at you, it's not black and yellow, it's black and gold. So trust me, that's a whole Pittsburgh debate that we don't need to dive into.
Fair enough.
Either way, black and gold or black and yellow. It's funny enough because he's coming from the team that literally modeled their jerseys after the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
So I think he's a natural fit. Not for that, but because when you watch Caleb Johnson run, in Iowa's offense, they run often a zone run scheme. And what I mean by zone run, if you don't know what between zone and gap, zone is where linemen block guys in their space, regardless of where they are. Their assignment is based off of, hey, if there's a D tackle here, we're both working this because this is what we block. And then the running back gets to choose, hey, which holes am I going through? Which is the best opportunity for me? Whereas a gap and power assignment running means, hey, lineman, I don't care where anybody's at. You're blocking this guy. You're blocking this guy. You're blocking this guy. We have these assignments. Running back, you are hitting this hole. Guard, tackle, right between there. Bang, hit there. And that's what Najee Harris, I think, was really good at Alabama at doing. When Arthur Smith came to town, he wanted to run a zone offense because that's more what he was used to running. And that's not something I think Najee Harris was too keen on. Now, he was fine. According to sports information systems, he averaged 4 yards per carry. But when you look at Caleb Johnson, he averaged almost 7 yards per carry behind the zone in Iowa.
Runner.
And he's a hard runner, and he's patient, and he understands. And I think the other part of this that's unfair to Najee Harris is that in all 4 of his years, the Steelers' offensive line has either been bad or below average. I think last year they got to slightly below average. They didn't get, I think they were either average or slightly below average, especially in the last like 6 weeks of the season. They were a below average offensive line. If Caleb Johnson gets the benefit of an experienced offensive line that has first-round pick Broderick Jones in his 3rd year, first-round pick Troy Faltano in his 2nd year, second-round pick Zach Frazier in his 2nd year, 4th-round pick Mason McCormick in his 2nd year, and they coalesce as a line, Caleb Johnson could feed off that, be the proper zone runner. A lot of people say, oh, he's the new Najee Harris. No. He's the new Le'Veon Bell. That is what Le'Veon Bell thrived behind, was that Pouncey to Castro line that would bully people off the ball. And then he could say, all right, I'm going left, or I'm going right, or I'm going here, I'm going there. And that's what Caleb Johnson does so well at Iowa. That's why I think he could do well for the Steelers. We just have to see it manifest. The offensive line has to come through this year. If they do, look out for Caleb Johnson. He could be a sneaky fantasy football pick this year.
Christopher Carter of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Christopher, with everything that is going on in Pittsburgh, where do they stand in terms of the AFC North, do you feel like? I mean, is it everybody's behind Baltimore? Are they the number 2? You know, how do they shake out in that division?
I think they're battling for number 2 with the Bengals. I don't know what the Browns are doing. They're the Browns. You know, if they rise up this year, they rise up this year. Great. I've been hearing that they're gonna rise and take over the North for 30 years now, and they've never done it since they came back in 1999 or whatever it was. But I think that it's the Ravens. They are the clear favorite. They have the franchise quarterback, and they have the defense, and they have the playmakers. Whereas the Bengals, Joe Burrow might be the best quarterback, and he definitely has the best wide receiver duo, and they might be the best. I think they are the best wide receiver duo in the NFL. Maybe Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison got something to say about that too, but Chase and Higgins are pretty bad. But the problem with the Bengals is their offensive line is terrible. Joe Burrow did an amazing job buying time and getting away from guys last year. I would not bank on him doing that every single year, because since he's been in the NFL, he's been knocked out of the season twice. That is also the same amount of times they've made the playoffs with Joe Burrow in 5 seasons. That is not good. And their defense was garbage last year. And when you look at that, they drafted Shamar Stewart. I think he could be a really freaky athlete, but I think that he's going to take time to develop. I don't think they've done enough to fix their O-line or their defense. I think they're going to be a team that has the same problems that they did last year. And if the Steelers can just be a solid team this year, a better running team with a better offensive line, with a defense that's stronger up the middle, which is what they've invested in being this year, I think they can still be that second place team. I still think everyone's chasing Baltimore. They're a really good team. I think that Lamar Jackson, he just needs the year where like his position players don't, mess up in the big games or fumble or drop his wide open passes, and he can actually get to a Super Bowl finally. But I do think the Steelers are in a position where in 2 years' time, if this year they finish 10-7, but that run game has improved, that O-line has improved, the Joey Porter's matured and he's a CB1, Keanu Benton, Derek Harmon are emerging as premier defensive tackles behind Cam Hayward, Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, those guys are playing well, and Minkah Fitzpatrick's still in the fold. I think they could be in a position where in 2026, they're saying, you know what? Our O-line's good. Our running backs are good. We're fine at wide receiver because we got DK Metcalf, and maybe they draft one in the 3rd round next year. But that's where they say, you know what? We don't need to amass 12 picks. We need to go get a quarterback. So let's trade up. Let's do it. Let's do what the Chiefs did in 2017 when they traded up to get Patrick Mahomes. And they said, hey, you know what? We're the 27th pick of the draft, but we're trading up to 10, and we're going to go get our guy. And they landed their guy. And listen, it doesn't have to be Arch Manning, because I think that's what everyone points to. Arch Manning might not even be in the draft class. But if it's Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU, if it's Lenore Sellers out of South Carolina, if it's Drew Aller out of Penn State, not my favorite, but an option there. If it's Cade Klubnik out of Clemson, and there's other guys that can factor into that too, because every year there's always a new quarterback that emerges that you're like, ooh, that guy could be the guy. And there's Nico Iamaleava with UCLA. Any one of those guys that has a really strong year, and if there's at least 3 or 4 of them available, I see the Steelers as big players to trade up, go get their franchise quarterback, and then they set up that young quarterback in the same position Ben Roethlisberger was. Because if you remember in 2004 when they drafted Ben Roethlisberger, sure, they were 6-10 that year, but they had Alan Faneca and Jeff Hardings in the offensive line with Marvell Smith. They were set up front. They had Jerome Bettis in the backfield. They had Hines Ward at the wide receiver position. They had a defense that could knock the snot out of you with James Ferrier, Troy Polamalu, Casey Hampton, Joey Porter. They had things in place to be ready to receive their franchise quarterback. I think that is the ultimate goal this season. Be ready to receive the quarterback next year, so that when he gets here, if you hit big, and then you are all of a sudden a contender, and then that is what gets the Steelers back to being a Super Bowl threat in the NFL.
Sounds like a plan. Christopher Carter of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Christopher, thank you so much. Thank you for turning down that legal field for joining us here. And we appreciate your insight. Look forward to catching up with you again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today. When we come back, we'll talk a little baseball. Stay tuned.
If you want the latest in weather conditions, be sure to tune in to our Busy Bee Plumbing Weather Report each weekday on Mornings on Main Street. Brought to you, of course, by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. We will keep you updated on the latest conditions outside, like severe weather, heat, snow, rain, and even hail.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
May 7th, 1975, making the best of a bad situation, the Atlanta Braves acquired Barry Bonnell and Jim Essien from the Philadelphia Phillies in exchange for Johnny Oates and Dick Allen, the latter of whom was acquired from the Chicago White Sox over the previous offseason but refused to report. Allen, who hit an American League leading 32 home runs in 1974, despite leaving the team with 2 weeks remaining in the regular season, had earned 1964 NL Rookie of the Year honors in a previous stint with the Phillies, spent 2 more seasons with the team before ending his career in Oakland following the 77 season. Allen will be a posthumous inductee into the Baseball Hall of Fame this summer. That was this day in Braves history. So if you don't remember Dick Allen with the Atlanta Braves, that's because he really wasn't. So extra inning baseball at Truist Park last night. Cincinnati goes scoreless in the top of the 10th. Alex Verdugo is placed on second base to open the bottom of the 10th. Austin Riley is due up. The Reds walk Austin Riley to get to Marcell Ozuna. Not a good idea. Ozuna singles down the left field line. Verdugo scores, and the Braves walk it off 2-1 in 10. Braves again within one game of 500 at 17-18 with that win. Cincinnati falls a game under 500 at 18-19 with the loss. And as that was unfolding, you're walking Austin Riley to pitch to a guy who's already drawn 30 walks this year and is hitting a ton as well. It just, for a guy, even for a guy like Terry Francona, did not seem like the most solid of ideas, and it didn't take long for it to play out that way.
Yeah, one of those you wish you had your iPad on a different tab whenever you were making that decision there. You got the wrong set of data, it sounds like. And That's tough for Cincinnati, but obviously a good win for the Braves. Grinding one out. We mentioned that this series felt like it meant a little bit more to the Reds, but now all of a sudden Atlanta's in a great spot, doing what they do kind of at their best, is finding ways to win.
Yeah, I mean, this game was scoreless through 7. Cincinnati takes a 1-0 lead in the top of the 7th. Atlanta scored to tie it in the 8th. Couldn't get another one across in the 9th, but finished things off in extras. Chris Sale with the no decision, but struck out 10 over 6 2/3 innings and scoreless over that time. So, his record isn't showing it. He's 1-3, but he's coming around from that West Coast trip. He's slowly kind of rounding into midseason form, I think. So you still expect a lot of good stuff out of the reigning NL Cy Young Award winner, Chris Sale. I think it's just a matter of maybe a little bit more offensive support a little bit earlier. So nice performance from him. Braves has suddenly won 3 straight and got a chance to get to 500 for the first time this season. But as Wade pointed out earlier in the week, it's going to be a challenge because the Reds are sending Hunter Green to the mound, 4-2 with a 2.53, and those numbers may not indicate just how good he has been to start this season. He's been one of the better pitchers, if not in baseball, certainly in the National League to this point. The Braves will go with Grant Holmes, 2-2 with a 4.24, but an uncanny ability to just keep this team in ball games. So should be an interesting matchup tonight.
Yeah, you saw Sale go for double-digit strikeouts last night, second straight game that he had done that, and you will not be surprised if Green, if you don't get to him early, he's a guy that can easily run into double digits. So it should be a fun matchup. It'd have been cool to see them both go toe-to-toe last night, but the baseball gods robbed us of that opportunity. But, Atlanta, if they can get to this guy, you will undoubtedly feel great because you'll have a sweep at your hands, but you'll also have knocked out one of the top pitchers in the National League.
Not a sweep. This is a 4-game series.
Well, you can go for the sweep. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that one snuck up on me as well. I did not realize there was a Thursday game here, but yeah, they play again tomorrow. So, but you could secure the series with a win over Hunter Green, and that would certainly have you feeling pretty good about yourself if that were to be the case. Okay, so the bad news, Milwaukee falls to Houston last night 4-3. I'm sorry, Houston falls to Milwaukee 4-3. Misspoke. Milwaukee scored all of their runs in the first inning and got 6 scoreless innings out of former Nashville Sounds pitcher Chad Patrick. So, again, Milwaukee with a 4-3 win over Houston yesterday. The good news, Houston pounds Milwaukee today, 9-1 the final there.
Seemed like Milwaukee kind of let their foot off the gas, or I don't know if Valdez was just pitching well. He had 7 strikeouts, did give up a home run, but had 7 Ks, and, Houston kind of showing a little signs of life. They didn't really get the bats going until the midway mark of the game. They added 3 runs late, too. It was 6-1 for the majority of that game, but, nice little trend in the positive direction a little bit. Milwaukee's not the best team by any means, but as I've said, Houston's not the best team by any means. Both teams are flat 500 coming out of this.
Jeremy Pena drives in 4, hits a home run. He goes 2 for 5 on the day. So big day at the top of the order from the shortstop, Jeremy Pena, again in Houston's 9-1 victory today. Speaking of offense, last night, you had a couple of big innings from a couple of teams. The Yankees scored 10 runs in the 7th inning, capped by an Austin Wells grand slam in that inning as they defeated San Diego 12-3. Aaron Judge also had a home run, his 12th. And the Giants put up a 9-run 11th inning, snapping a 5-5 tie to win 14-5 again in 11 innings. I don't know how you go extras and then come up with 9 in one at bat, but That was the case for San Francisco against the Cubs last night.
That was a crazy one, and I was keeping loose tabs on it with some Cubs friends, and it was 5-4 going into the ninth, and then Kyle Tucker does what Kyle Tucker does and singles in a run to tie the game. You're thinking, oh, man, we got this game in the bag, and then you put out Ryan Presley, who you feel pretty good about, and then he decided it was a nice opportunity to go out and throw batting practice in the 11th inning. So, yeah. Kind of a wild scene. Spoiler, the Cubs did not have any answer for 9 runs, let alone 1 in the bottom half of that frame. So kind of it's what makes baseball such a tough game is you kind of grinded your guts out scoring twice in the ninth to tie it up. They had got another run. They were trailing 5-2 before they finally got it to 5-3, and then those 2 in the ninth, only to give up 9 runs. It was BP out there for the Giants in that 11th.
Former Brentwood High School standout Robbie Ray trying to get to 5-0 tonight as the Giants finish up their series against Chicago. So keep an eye out for Ray. Again, he's 4-0 with a 3.05 ERA coming into this series finale for the Giants. Paul Skeens seems to be able to dominate everybody except the Cardinals. The Pirates fall 2-1 to St. Louis, and Skeens falls to 0-4 in 5 starts against the Redbirds. Gave up a 2-out, 2-run double, to Alex Burleson in the 6th, and that was all it took. Because not a whole lot of room for error for the Pirates with that offense these days. So tough luck loss, but a loss nonetheless for the reigning NL Rookie of the Year. That's crazy. He is 0-4 in 5 starts. He has a 2.75 earned run average over those 5 starts, but he's 0-4.
Weird game, right?
Maybe it's not so much him. Maybe it's the Pirates offense when he's on the mound against them.
And I mean, that's a fascinating concept. If you're a hitter, undoubtedly you kind of go into that game. We don't necessarily need to poke 9 runs. We got Skeensy going. But then he looks around and he's like, dudes, I need a little more production than this. I mean, it's 1-0 and we're losing in the 7th inning. I mean, so it is a little bit of a give and take, and you're right. I mean, we've talked about it a couple of times. He'd given up 5 to them earlier this year. Something's just off. I don't know if it's in his head at this point. I don't know if the team is – I mean, they're just not playing great. And they had a little bit of magic, it felt like, when he came up last year, but it just seems by and large the team is just lifeless at the moment. Would have been a good question to ask Christopher about, because they don't seem like they have any juice. And that division has kind of seemingly already slipped through their fingertips. They're close to 11 games back right now.
They've lost 6 straight. They've lost 9 of their last 10. But here's an interesting number. Skeens has made 5 starts against St. Louis. He's gone 32 2/3. Pittsburgh has scored 3 runs while he has been in those 5 games. And as third baseman Key Brian Hayes said, we just got to pick them up and score runs. So however that may be, whether it be drawing walks, getting that big hit, we just got to find a way. So there we go.
St. Louis playing pretty decent ball too. They've won 5 in a row, and they're kind of sniffing a little bit at the Cubs' heels in the Central. But yeah, that's not something that you're used to. And we mentioned Hunter Green earlier. Skeens is still your favorite, but he's now tied. He's now tied with Yamamoto for that NL Cy Young on most of your sports books. Green is listed at 3rd. So Skeens, another performance like this, and he is going to relinquish that favorite status that he's had pretty much since the season started.
We mentioned during the rundown, the Sounds defeated Norfolk 5-3 at First Horizon Park last night. That got the Sounds their 20th win of the season. They are 20-14. Brandon Woodruff on another rehab start for the Sounds from Milwaukee. Pitched 5 innings, gave up a pair of runs on 7 hits, struck out 6, and the Sounds were down when he left the game, but they scored 4 runs in the 8th to get Woodruff off the hook. So late offense, never a bad thing. Let's take a break here as we conclude our number one on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We continue Wild and Wacky Wednesday when we come back as we get into the grab bag. Stick around. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We continue with our number two of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In the final segment, we will bring you the weirdest, wildest, wackiest, and most wondrous news from across the country. Be sure and stick around for that. Also, in the next segment, we'll visit with Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City, talking a little NASCAR. Right now, though, let's get into the grab bag. Wade, how concerned are we about Cleveland all of a sudden? The Pacers go in there, pick up game 2 with a 120-119 win. They are up 2-0 in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and they're going home.
Yeah, I think you got to be very concerned if you are a fan of the Cavs at this point. And I was texting with Tom Withers, who had joined us a couple days ago right after the show the other day, and the last words he said was, I think they're in real trouble. And that was before what we saw last night. I mean, we saw Cleveland kind of collapse. We saw Halliburton with his best major league impersonation. I mean, we saw a little bit of everything, and none of it was good for Cleveland. These guys are banged, they're bruised, and if they don't come back in game 3, it feels like we're already talking about this series being over, which is crazy for a team that seemingly was so dominant throughout the course of the regular season.
Right. I mean, just don't know that you would have expected this. Now, they are battling some injury situations, obviously.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're missing Garland. They're missing Mobley. They're missing DeAndre Hunter, who they made a trade for midway mark of this season. I mean, those are we're not just talking guys off the bench that are, key role player here, key role player there. We're talking major contributors, and Mobley in particular is the one that is the most concerning to me. Garland obviously is a huge part, but it seems like Mobley has just that versatility on the defensive side of the ball. And we've seen a defensive stopper can carry you a long way in this series. And now there's reports, that Donovan Mitchell, who had basically put the team on his back last night, he's dealing with a calf injury. So Things have gone from bad to worse, and if they don't respond in Game 3, it's going to be lights out. But on the other hand, you have to give props to the Pacers. Quiet as it's kept, they were very scrappy in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They kind of play with the sense of a team that just doesn't know they're supposed to do anything different. They didn't get the memo that they were supposed to roll over. They gave Boston a little bit of a run last year. And after a slow start this year in the regular season, I kind of had written them off. They kind of got a bye in the first round in the sense they had to play the Bucks, but now they have been up to the challenge and then some. Halliburton missing the free throw, gets his own rebound, says, I'm not trying to tie the game. I'm trying to win the game. And, then dropped his hands down to do the major league celebration I referenced earlier. I mean, that was Billy Big Ball stuff, to say the least. These guys are dogs, man. Nimhart is playing out of his mind. They got guys getting dunks off of missed free throws. They're just out hustling the Cavs. As depleted as they are, we have to give Indiana their flowers because they are taking these games, and they have gotten two. They have 2 wins. What is the stat? They have 2 wins when trailing by 7 points in the final 30 seconds in the postseason. All other teams in the history of the NBA are like 2 and 250 in those situations. So they have 2 in their last 3 games in that situation. It has been unreal what they have done thus far.
Game 3 is Friday back in Indianapolis. You got to feel like Gainbridge Fieldhouse is going to be rocking.
No doubt. And let me get it right here. Playoff record when trailing by 7 or more with under 90 seconds left in the game. This year's Pacers team, 2 wins in their last 3 games. Every other team in that situation in the last 20 years in the NBA is 1 and 384. So they have just snatched. I know the one against the Bucks, they probably were going to take care of the series no matter what. But last night's, they absolutely stole that game. And, they deserve all the credit. But, man, this will be a real shaky situation for Cleveland if they can't turn it around.
Man, I mean, can you imagine going into the offseason what that's going to look like for Cleveland, having had the regular season that they had, looking like the wagon that they were all season long, and then going out not with a bang but a whimper? I mean, it's tough to even consider, feels like.
I mean, injuries happen. Injuries are part of it. But, there's no other way, because so many people were saying all regular season, and this is a little bit of fool's gold. And this is a little bit of fool's gold with the Cavs. Don't necessarily buy into the hype. I was one of those that kind of bought into the hype, but suddenly their roster has just disintegrated before our very eyes. So it's kind of tainted in that sense. But, the wins are the wins and the losses are the losses. And right now they're staring 0-3 in the face if they don't rally later this week.
No doubt. Good news. The Warriors won at Minnesota 99-88 last night in the opener of the Western Conference semifinal. Bad news. Steph Curry is likely to miss Game 2 with a hamstring issue. So I guess, I guess if you're in that situation, you got in the one game that you wanted to get that series started on the road if you're Golden State. But this, depending on how short or long-term the Curry situation is, clearly that's not good.
Yeah, and to make that worse, latest report from The Athletic, right, kind of when we sign on, he's going to miss the next 3 games. So Golden State has got to figure out something. Yeah, you got Game 1. And that is massive. Curry only played 13 minutes. So the big chunk of that game was won by Golden State, who flirted with winning that by double digits. The good news for Golden State, if that's the performance that Minnesota is going to deliver, Golden State will be just fine whether they have me and you out there playing instead of Curry.
Maybe.
Minnesota looked like a team. I saw this point all over the internet. They looked like a team that had played the Lakers in the first round. And what I mean by that is they played a team of 5 dudes and really nobody else and no center. Minnesota, we kind of maybe bought into the hype a little bit too much on them because everybody bought into the hype on the Lakers. Last night, even without Curry, and Podziemski only having 3 points, who had kind of been a key starter / swing player for them, they found a way to win. I don't expect Minnesota to go out and shoot 17% from 3 from downtown. Anthony Edwards didn't even have a field goal until like 5 minutes left in the third quarter. He was pretty putrid last night. Minnesota's got major concerns, though, as well as Golden State, obviously.
Going to the ice The Hurricanes opened their conference semifinal against the Caps with a 2-1 win in overtime.
Death and destruction for Carolina, because they just kind of fly under the radar so much. And Ann mentioned this yesterday on the show. I mean, they kind of just fly under the radar so much because of the other star power. Everybody's fixated on the allure of the Leafs. Everybody knows that the Panthers are the defending champs. Everybody knows about Ovechkin. Hurricanes are kind of the odd team left out, and they took care of business. I want to say I'm maybe surprised, but we also saw Washington kind of play with their food a little bit in the first round. That will be an interesting series. Washington will have to be at their best to come back and knock them off. It doesn't feel like the Hurricanes are just going to roll over at this point.
It's tough to score more than one goal when you only get 14 shots.
Makes it very, very.
Yeah. In the West, Edmonton takes a 1-0 lead over Vegas with a 4-2 victory last night.
Crazy situation, man. You can't win the game or lose a series in the first game, but it sure felt like it last night. Vegas had T-Mobile Arena absolutely jumping. 2 quick goals. They're up 2-0 less than 10 minutes in. A huge goal right at the end of the first period, though, from Corey Perry. Kind of got them back in it. Second period, no scoring. But, man, in the third period, it just felt like Edmonton was just by far the better team. And they got the 2 goals to tie it, and then Connor Brown gets the goal to late to really put it up and out of reach. That feels like Vegas blew a classic chance at home right there. The vibes with Edmonton got to be feeling pretty good after that one.
Game 2 between the Panthers and the Maple Leafs tonight. The Maple Leafs leading that one 1-0, but they are expected to be without their goalie, Anthony Stolarz. He has been ruled out after that shot to the head in game 1. I mean, obviously the backup goalie held up Joseph Wall in game 1, but going to your backup this early in a series of this magnitude might not be the most comforting situation for Toronto, but that's kind of where they're at, obviously.
Yeah, and one of their forwards, Scott Lawton, they asked what Toronto's response would be after kind of the big hit, and he said 2 words: to win. So Toronto seems locked in, and they seem kind of win at all cost mode. This will be a very fun one to kind of get us going tonight. All the bad juju for Toronto kind of seemingly slips away with every win. But don't discount Florida just yet. I think this will be a fun one. Florida's a small favorite heading into tonight's game.
Dallas and Winnipeg open their Western Conference semifinal matchup tonight in Winnipeg.
This one will be epic. The whiteout will be in full effect. It will be absolute scenes at 8:30 tonight on ESPN. I don't know who's going to win this game. It feels like all the momentum is with Dallas, and it feels like Winnipeg is just living on a prayer by the way they advanced, winning in double overtime versus St. Louis. I will not be shocked if Dallas comes out and steamrolls Winnipeg, but I also will not be surprised if the Jets kind of hold serve at home. That building will be absolutely rocking tonight when those 2 teams get it on.
We talked about the SEC softball tournament with Marion Angus Combs of softball on SI earlier this week. They got going yesterday. Georgia opened with a run rule victory, 8-0 over Kentucky. Marion mentioned that Missouri would have to win the SEC tournament to make the NCAA tournament. The Tigers don't have to worry about that anymore. Ole Miss won, Mizzou nothing. And Alabama with a 3-2 win over Auburn yesterday. We're halfway through the second day. She mentioned that Arkansas and Mississippi State would probably be her favorites. LSU 5, Mississippi State nothing in the opener today. So I don't know. We might have to find another softball expert, Wade. I don't know. Arkansas scores 5 late, though, to defeat Georgia 5-1. Later this evening, we've got Ole Miss in Florida and Alabama and South Carolina to finish up the day. So Arkansas and Georgia, I had that game on earlier. That game was 1-1 late. So I don't know exactly what Arkansas did to score 4 runs, if they got them all in one inning or how that went. But the top-ranked, 5th-seeded Razorbacks open SEC tournament play with a 4-run victory.
Good win for Arkansas, and I am not going to even dare text my good friend and colleague Katie Mosley, the former Georgia softball manager. She will be devastated to see the Dogs lose, but Arkansas is kind of taking care of business. And Marin, 50-50 ain't bad, I guess, right?
We'll take it because her 50-50 is better than my.
That 100% with me. That is for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we love to give Marin a hard time, but nah. We love her knowledge of the game. Tennessee Lady Vols basketball continuing to do what they and Kim Caldwell do, picking up a recent transfer portal commitment out of Janiah Barker, who spent her freshman season spent the past season at UCLA after previously playing at Texas A&M for 2 years. The number 3 prospect coming out of the 2022 recruiting class. Again, 2 years at A&M. Part of UCLA's Final Four squad this past season, averaging 7.4 points, 6 boards, 1.5 assists, primarily coming off the bench for the 34-3 Bruins. So she's headed back to the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to Knoxville along with former SMU guard Nia Robertson, who was a second-team All-Atlantic Coast Conference selection this past year. So, again, Tennessee and Coach Caldwell continuing to mine the transfer portal. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. Barker coming in, I guess, for her senior year. She's played 3 previously. I don't know that she could have more than 1 left, but who knows?
UCLA kind of feels like I had to dig deep here on the ESPN I always love reading these. The way too early top 25, and their first. This is wrote like the day after the championship game, and it was expected that Barker apparently was going to enter the portal. It kind of almost seems like a embarrassment of riches situation for UCLA. As good as and talented as Barker is, they kind of are bringing in some studs. They've already obviously got some really talented players coming back. So kind of felt like her days maybe were numbered there, but it seems like a good fit, just because she didn't have a spot or didn't have a role per se with UCLA doesn't mean she can't fit in Knoxville. And just kind of continuing to mine, like you said, is Kim Caldwell. This will be a fascinating season. Felt like, bringing her in a little bit later last year, you kind of don't know what to expect. Expectations, not ever low for Tennessee by any means, but a little diminished. There's a little bit of a grace period there. But I think everybody's kind of excited to see what she does in year number 2.
Absolutely. Sad news out of Clarksville today. William Hardrick, who had transferred into the Austin Peay football program after spending the past 2 seasons at Miami of Ohio and beginning his collegiate football career at Mississippi State, passed away overnight. No details on the circumstances, but that's stunning. We are truly saddened by the passing of William Hardrick, a new member of our football program and the Austin Peay family. Austin Peay AD Gerald Harrison said, "All of our thoughts and prayers are with the Hardrick family today. We will do everything we can to support his friends, family, and teammates at this time." Again, Hardrick was a defensive back who transferred into the program, having played the last 2 seasons at Miami of Ohio. 32 total tackles, 5 pass breakups in 19 games. Most of that coming last fall after transferring in from Mississippi State. You hate to hear about this kind of thing. And again, the lack of details is interesting, but you don't want to get too deep into that and get invasive, but you just hate to hear about this kind of thing.
Yeah, sad news, and our thoughts and prayers go out to all the communities there involved.
Absolutely. Let's take a break here on Wild and Wacky Wednesday. When we come back, we'll be joined by Heather Williams of WCYB-TV in Johnson City, talking a little NASCAR. And again, in our final segment, it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Wade and I'll be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the country. Stick around.
Get ready, race fans. NASCAR is back in Music City with a new name, the Cracker Barrel 400. Guitars, fast cars, and the comfort of Cracker Barrel's country hospitality. May 30th through June 1st. The action kicks off Friday night at Nashville Super Speedway with the Rackley Roofing 200. Then the Tennessee Lottery 250 on Saturday. And Sunday night, NASCAR's top stars under the lights in the Cracker Barrel 400. Get your tickets now at NashvilleSuperspeedway.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We now have with us our NASCAR analyst, Heather Williams of WCYB-TV in Johnson City. Heather, happy hump day.
Happy Wednesday. Hey, Mike, do you know what day it is? You know what day it is? To you guys as well.
Hey? Yes, we got you. We're old enough. We know. Hey,
I was just having a conversation with our newsroom about what we were all doing in 1996, and it made me sad because half of them weren't born. So there's that.
Yeah, you got to stay away from that one at this point.
That's like the stat Tyler Shaw drafted. He's the last player that will ever be drafted in the NFL that was born in the 90s. So that's another one just adds to our oldness here.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you brought it up.
True. It's a true story. Well, I mean, my depression level was already there because I was actually already working in TV in 96. So yeah.
It's not like you just graduated from high school or anything like that.
No. I had graduated from college because I started working in TV while I was still in college. But I was graduated from college. I was just a grown up working a job and paying the bills at that point.
A grown up is the key.
I'm not sure I'm really still a grown up 30 years later, but
I am. Both of my children were born by 1996. So
yeah. See.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's get on to bigger and better, brighter, more positive things. Joey Logano gets it done at Texas, and a couple of questions. One, Heather, did the Texas race make everybody happy after some of the doldrums that fans were in over the previous few weeks?
They're NASCAR fans. They're never happy.
Never happy.
I mean, if NASCAR social media didn't have anything to complain about, I think that would honestly symbolize the end of the world. Like it'd just be done. Like the Armageddon is coming. It's over. I mean, it was a better race. Texas is the mile and a half are the best races in NASCAR, the intermediates, because you have your not quite mile and a half like Nashville, and you have your 2 miles like Michigan, but those intermediate sized tracks, that's the best racing in NASCAR right now. But on the spectrum of which intermediate tracks create the best racing, Texas is still on the low end of that. So it was better. I expect this week at Kansas to be even better because Kansas is on the high end of intermediate tracks and the kind of racing it produces. So they were happy-ish. I think Joey Logano winning probably made the general public less happy because they're not that happy. But you did see that Chipper made up with Joey.
We did see that, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I mean,
or better yet, to get Joey's thoughts if he had any.
I mean, Joey reposted it, and he's like, "I'm glad you're a fan now." So, I mean, I think they're all made up. That whole thing was so weird to me, and I talked about it in my podcast last week, which is it's not like Chipper Jones never got mad at a teammate and went off at him. We just didn't have cameras there, or audio. In NASCAR, you're very lucky in the fact that you get to listen to the team radio. So that wasn't really what I said on my podcast specifically was just because things are free and available doesn't mean that everything's for you. Right? That wasn't for you. That was team communication. You got to hear it, but I'm sure the same thing went on between Chipper and somebody else when he was mad during a game.
Oh, I'm sure. But
so,
but the flip side of that, though, Heather, is that every mic is hot.
Well, sure. Joey knew that was going to go out there, but I mean, it's not like he did it. He's not like he went on the broadcast and started calling him all those names afterwards when he jumped out of the car. So, I mean, he did say a tamed down version of that, of what went on. He was frustrated with his teammate, but it's just different, right? It's just different. And I thought it was really weird of Chipper to pick that hill to die on. And I think maybe Chipper understood that it was weird to pick that hill to die on because he's backed off of it quite a bit.
I, for one, am a little disappointed. It feels like Giannis and Halliburton's dad, they made up too quickly. We were robbed of what could have been a couple of great weeks. Yeah, we could have strung this thing out for multiple weeks, but instead they make up after 1 week. That's not very fun.
Well, and Chipper's such a great NASCAR fan. You could have got Chipper to the track and really had some fun with it. But, yeah, I think just because it's like he who lives in glass houses shouldn't throw the first stone. I think he realized people probably didn't want that kind of scrutiny going on with his relationships with his teammates.
He might have also stumbled into NASCAR Twitter by accident and be like, whoa, okay, I don't want any part of this. This is a different kind of crazy than I was anticipating.
Yeah, well, sure.
This is Braves Twitter.
I mean, the thing is that Joey's not very well liked on NASCAR Twitter, so he probably had more people on his side than he did against him. I mean, for whatever reason, too, because let me just tell you something. I know it's part of it is the way Joey races because Joey has no friends on the track. But outside of the race car, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better human being than Joey Logano. He's just a really good dude, does a ton of charity work, is super amenable to the media, very accessible. Like, he's a good dude. So I think it's really funny that he is one of the least liked guys in the garage area because if you actually met Joey and hung out with Joey, you'd like him. I guarantee you'd like him if you didn't know who he was going into it.
Certainly not a shock that he wins, but what were your feelings regarding his performance this weekend?
It was okay. He took advantage of the fact that there was a ton of attrition in this race. Good cars, Josh Berry was out front leading, hits a bump because the turn 3 and 4 is very bumpy, gets up too high in the groove, hits a bump, spins out, hits the wall, leading the race, right? And Michael McDowell, when the Penske cars are coming, is trying to hold them off. He spins out and hits the wall. I think he was running second, third-ish as it happened. There was a couple of big wrecks. Like, there was a ton of attrition in this race, and good cars were knocking themselves out. And Joey stayed clean, and Ryan Blaney too, because I think Ryan might have had the best car all day. Stayed out, took advantage of the mistakes that other cars were making, and did what Joey always does, which is when the opportunity is there, even if he's not a winning car, if someone opens up the door and lets him be a winning car, he's not going to give that up. He's going to take advantage of it. He's going to take the win every time you try to give it to him. He's not going to give it back. So it was a Joey Logano-esque win.
Heather, when you say that it's bumpy in turns, 3 and 4? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
How does that go unaddressed by your track operator? I mean,
that's part of the character of the track. There are lots of tracks that have character where because the track settles or the pavement settles and it creates these bumps and they intentionally leave those in there at a lot of places because it creates drama, it creates character. You have to adjust for that. It makes it more challenging for the drivers. I mean, if it starts to get super bad, then they will repave the track, but nobody likes to repave. The drivers like that character, and it like I said, it creates drama. I mean, Josh Berry's running away from the field. He hits that the wrong way and hits the wall. That's drama, right? So that's very much it's not on purpose, but it's left unaddressed on purpose.
That's a feature, not a bug, as the kids say.
There we go. Exactly. Okay. All right. So Logano wins it. But was there a better team than Trackhouse this weekend? Chastain finished in second and Suarez 10th.
I mean, they had a good run, and actually, Shane Van Gisbergen, which people kind of forget that he's out there running around for Trackhouse sometimes, had a really good run going, and had an issue late, but he was in the top 15 at one point in the race, and had one of his better oval runs that he's had in a while. So, I talked yesterday to SVG, and he says that Trackhouse's biggest issue now is qualifying. Like, they are qualifying terrible. And even this weekend, they qualified terrible. They're another team, much like Penske and Joey, that took advantage of the attrition in the race, stayed clean, and worked their way to the front. But they all started way at the back of the field. And it's very difficult in this next-gen car to pass. And so when you start at the back of the field, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Even if you have speed, it's so hard to get through the field. So they've really got to address qualifying. In my conversation with SVG, he really feels like if they can do that, that's going to improve their finishes because they've got decent speed and they're working their way through the field decently, but it's a lot harder. Even if they can make the improvement, instead of qualifying 25th to 30th, qualifying 12th to 17th, that's going to make it easier for them.
Sure. Logano, Chastain, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, and Eric Jones are your top 5. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Austin Dillon, John Hunter Nemechek, Christopher Bell, and Suarez round out your top 10.
And shout out also the Legacy Motor Club with Eric Jones and John Hunter Nemechek. I mean, that's a team that a year ago was out to lunch, and they are having more and more of these kind of finishes where those guys are up front. So Jimmy Johnson's got his team headed, though slowly, on an upward trajectory.
Finishes of note locally, I guess. Josh Berry comes in 32nd. Bubba Wallace was one of those that got caught up in the attrition, finished 33rd. Well, placed 33rd, did not finish, I guess. But tough day at the office.
And Denny Hamlin caught on fire and finished last, broke a streak of the 8th longest streak in NASCAR history of lead lap finishes. I mean, when I say Denny Hamlin was on fire, it was a large fire. I mean, he was.
I'm looking at a clip, and he's okay, but man, holy, that's a fireball going down the track.
Yeah, and I listened to his podcast on Monday, and he said that he knew he was on fire, but it didn't really hit him until he stopped because the fire's blowing, like the wind's blowing it out. As soon as they stopped, he was like, it was hot. It was hot. Like he had to get out of the car. Because, it was quite a fire. That was a spectacular engine fail. You don't see those too often anymore.
I'm reminded of the Eddie Murphy routine. Now that's a fire.
That's a fire. I thought you were going to say Ricky Bobby. I'm on fire. Help me, Jesus. Help me, Oprah Winfrey.
They say an oil pan failure. Is that something that is like totally unexpected, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's an engine part failure, and he said he had no indication. Like, it made a noise the previous lap, like it was starting to go sour, and then before he could complete the next lap, it was up in flames.
Oof.
There you go.
That doesn't sound like a whole
And
lot
that's
of fun.
actually, so he spins out here. He's actually spinning himself out on purpose to try to use the air to put the fire out.
Put it
didn't
out?
work. Yeah, it didn't work though.
Oh, goodness. So, Heather, through 11 races, we've had 7 different winners. 3 multiple winners. Christopher Bell won that 3 straight. Kyle Larson has won a couple, and the aforementioned Denny Hamlin has won 2. What is your takeaway from the season to this point as far as that goes?
The top 3 teams in the garage area are still the top 3 teams in the garage area, but behind them, there is a little bit of jockeying for position to see who else is going to be players in the playoffs, right? You know, you look at Denny and Christopher. Gibbs is very strong. You know, Chase Briscoe's still trying to get used to that 19 car, but he's improving, as is Ty Gibbs. You look at the Penske cars, 2 of them have won. Ryan Blaney is up there in the points, even though he's had some miserable luck. He's been running really well. And the Hendrick cars are all up there. But then after that, you know, 23-11, Bubba's had one of his best seasons, but Tyler Reddick has not had a great season. It's almost like Bubba's come up and Tyler's come down. They're running very even now, where they were maybe like this before. But they're trying to get themselves in the mix as far as the top teams. You look at teams like you've mentioned Trackhouse and Legacy Motor Club. Those are 2 teams that really, for their standards, did not have great seasons last year, but you can see this year that they're slowly starting to improve a little bit. You look at Spire Motorsports. That's a team that has a ton of speed. 2 of their 3 cars were players this weekend. Carson Hocevar started in the pole. Michael McDowell was leading late, but they all had bad luck. All their cars had bad luck. So it's really going to be fascinating to see. Oh, and Colleague is another team that's running way better than it did last year. So it's really going to be interesting to see, beyond the big 3, what teams are filling in the rest of the playoffs, who's filling out the rest of the playoffs, because nobody has made a claim on it. Like, they haven't staked their claim on that playoff, that next organization.
Heather, I'm curious, haven't asked you this, at least recently, I don't guess. Where do we sit kind of ratings wise? I feel like we could tap into your TV knowledge. What have the ratings looked like television wise for NASCAR this season? Good, bad, up, down?
It's a great week to ask that question, because last year, the F1 race at in Miami.
That's kind of sneaky. What made me think of this too is I wanted to compare.
So last year it was up against Kansas, and Kansas had rain delay, and F1 beat NASCAR, and everybody's like, oh. This year NASCAR beat F1. And what's interesting about that is that F1 is on broadcast television. They were on ABC, while NASCAR was on Fox Sports 1, and still beat them in the ratings on cable. Xfinity Series, the ratings are up across the board. It is by far the best ratings for the Xfinity Series. Week over week, now F1 finished second this week, but week over week, it is consistently the number 2 motorsport in the country. So Cup Series is 1, Xfinity Series is 2, F1 is 3, IndyCar is 4, NHRA is 5. When you're ranking that, I think trucks are probably 6. They might be above NHRA, but they're pretty far down. But strong. The ratings are strong. Now, are they what they used to be? No. Most of the time, the races are on cable. And they're about to move to Amazon Prime, which is really going to drive people insane for 5 races, starting with Charlotte in 2 weeks. This week, next week, 3 weeks. Charlotte in 3 weeks. But the ratings have been good. The ratings have been really good for NASCAR this year. Despite everybody complaining how much they hate it, they're still watching.
Kind of along those same lines, more entertainment fodder. Have you watched all 5 episodes of Full Speed yet, which apparently dropped this morning?
Because I don't have Netflix.
Okay.
But I'm going home to my mother's house this week, and she does have Netflix when I'm in Kansas City. So I'm planning on binging that while I'm home visiting my mom.
I'm reading a little bit of a recap on The Athletic, and I'm trying not to read too much because I might watch some, and I don't want to be spoiled in any way. Here.
I would watch it. I would. I mean, it's only 5 episodes, so it's not going to take a ton of your time. And I really enjoyed last year's. I'll tell you, last year's my favorite part of last year is so they picked these drivers, and they picked based on 2 things. Characters, and then and who will let them follow them, and then also who they thought were going to be players. So they're following Denny, and they're following Bubba, and they're following Joey Logano, I think Ryan Blaney, and they get to the championship 4, and they haven't followed Christopher Bell the entire time. And he sits down and he goes, "You didn't expect me to be here, did you?" And it's just like a great C-Bell moment, because even though he was in the championship for the year before, they didn't expect him to get back. They didn't pick him. They weren't following him. But when he got to 4, they were like, well, we kind of need to follow him because he might be the champion. Right. So they picked him up that week, and it was just great. It was just he's a pretty big part of this new season. But that's my favorite moment in the whole thing, when he just sits down and goes, "You didn't expect me." It's like,
funny seeing you here.
Yeah, go figure. So Heather, I mean, is your mom cool with you coming home and binging on Netflix? Will she watch this with you, or?
Oh no, she won't watch it with me, but she's got 5 televisions in her house, so I'll be able to find some place to watch.
And mom thinks you're coming home to see her. No, you're just going home to watch Netflix.
No, that's not true. Neither one of them are. I mean, I am going to see my mom, but the real reason I'm going home is that I've been ordered home by my niece to come watch her dance competition. And whatever Princess Briar wants, Princess Briar gets. So that's the real reason for the trip.
Well, are you going to be able to make it to the race?
I'm going out to the track on Saturday. I will not be there on Sunday because Princess Briar's solo competition is on Sunday.
On Sunday.
On Mother's Day.
Hashtag priorities. Hey, what are you expecting out of the race that you're not going to get to see?
Well, I'm going to watch it at some point, but it is going to be, I might even have my phone there, because other than the 3 minutes that she's dancing, I don't really going to watch all of those other kids dance. No offense. But I expect this to be a great race. The Kansas races very rarely are disappointing. There's lots of passing. It's a wide track. It's a fast track. There's been great finishes, dramatic finishes there over the last few years under the next gen car. As far as the next gen car goes, this is its best track. Kansas is. So I really expect to see good racing and maybe happy NASCAR Twitter for the first time in weeks, maybe months. One other thing that we didn't talk about that I'll throw out there real quick before we break is that NASCAR announced yesterday that they are moving the championship race that's been in Phoenix for the past 5 years next year back to Homestead, and then they're going to start rotating it. So Phoenix and Homestead will be in that rotation, kind of like the Super Bowl. They haven't announced what other tracks are going to be in there. There are a couple of qualifications to be considered. First of all, you have to be in a warm-ish climate. So no Michigan, no Watkins Glen, New York, no Pocono. You have to be really, they want it to be a mile and a half-ish or shorter. They don't want to do road courses or super speedways. They don't want to do, again, Pocono. And they want significant races or significant markets. So what's interesting to you all is one of the races that have been kicked around is Nashville. But I find that hysterical because it's like, have you been to Nashville in November? It is not a warm climate.
It's not warmish.
I think people think Tennessee South, it must be warm. But Nashville is one of the races that people are kicking around in the conversation to host a championship race. I just don't see it happening because of the weather. Like it's not warm in Nashville in November.
Well, I mean, it can be warm in Nashville in November.
It can be 80.
It can also be 10.
On it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I mean, I look at probably Homestead, Texas, Phoenix, Vegas, and maybe Atlanta, although Atlanta races like a super speedway, so I don't know if they'll include Atlanta in that. But those are the places I look will probably be in the rotation.
Okay. Good knowledge as always from Heather Williams of WCYB-TV in Johnson City as we talk NASCAR, as we typically do on Wednesdays. Heather, will we be doing so next Wednesday?
I should be able to work it into my schedule. Because Wednesday, all I have on the agenda is more dance recital in the evening. But we can hash that out
between now and then.
Between now and then. But I on the surface, I would say yes, I can probably work it into my schedule.
Love it.
Sounds good. We appreciate it. Good luck to your niece this weekend and into the week. And
yeah,
I mean, 9th
overall last week she got. So
I don't know if break a leg is applicable for dance routines. I mean,
well,
take that literally.
Any theater stuff, you're supposed to say break a leg. So yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, break a leg. We will talk to you soon. We appreciate it.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take our final break. Let's come back and wrap up Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today with the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the country. Stick around.
Welcome to the Omni Nashville Hotel. Urban elegance with a vintage touch. Our 800-room hotel opened up in the fall of 2013 with 746 guest rooms and 54 suites.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Before we get into the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the country, though, need to tie up a couple of loose ends. One, we mentioned Arkansas defeating Georgia 5-1 in the SEC softball tournament earlier today. Well, said we didn't know how Arkansas scored those 4 runs. Well, they scored them on a Bree Ellis walk-off grand slam.
Woo!
Yeah. Hello. Ms. Ellis announcing her presence with authority there against the Dogs. Again, Arkansas 5, UGA 1 on a walk-off grand slam by Bree Ellis to send the top-ranked 5th-seeded Razorbacks on in the SEC softball tournament bracket. Also, we neglected to mention the Nashville Soccer Club picked up a 1-0 win in the U.S. Open Cup round of 32 last night at Geodis Park, blanking the Chattanooga Red Wolves. Josh Bauer with the game's only goal for the boys in gold, and Brian Schwake getting a clean sheet in net for NSC, which steps back into MLS play this weekend. Charlotte FC comes to town on Saturday. And then I think they've got another midweek matchup next week. I think it's Wednesday against the Red Bulls. Is that right, Wade? That
Sounds right. I do know the Red Bulls are due up on the schedule.
Yeah, so they are in a stretch of 4 straight at home, I believe. I'm not sure what their next U.S. Open matchup is, but again, they've got Charlotte coming to town this weekend over at Geodis. So
if bracket holds form, they could. I don't know if they redraw these or not at this point, but bracketed wise, they're either going to get Orlando City, which is obviously an MLS team, or the Tampa Bay Rowdies, which is USL championship team. So it was all chalk last night. Nashville, kind of the sleepwalk award of the night. Everybody else kind of cruised in their matchups versus lower league competition, but a win's a win, and Nashville got it however they got it. Spirited effort from Chattanooga, but a good win for the boys.
With that housekeeping taken care of, let's get into Wild and Wacky Wednesday. And you know, we've not had a whole lot of Florida man appearances here of late on Wild and Wacky Wednesday, and this one may not necessarily qualify. Wade, if you won $167 million, don't you think you could stay out of trouble?
I would like to think so. Also, I could get into a lot of trouble with $167 million.
A Kentucky man who claimed a $167 million Powerball win about, well, I guess it's been about 2 weeks ago now, is in jail in Florida. James Farthing of Georgetown, Kentucky, was taken into custody for assault on an officer. He assaulted an officer in Pinellas County, Florida. Won the Powerball on Saturday, was interviewed on Sunday by a Kentucky television station, posed at the Kentucky State Lottery offices with the celebratory check on Monday, and by Wednesday, he was in jail in Florida. He was at a hotel when an officer tried to intervene in an altercation. Farthing punched him with a closed fist. The arresting officer says Farthing kicked him in the face, refused to comply with his orders, and resisted arrest. He's charged with battery of a law enforcement officer, resisting an officer, and battery, as well as violating parole. This ain't his first rodeo. Guy was on parole. His parole was set to expire in August for Kentucky charges, including convictions of tampering with evidence, engaging in organized crime, drug charges, receiving stolen property, and theft by unlawful taking. But I guess he'll have $167 million on his commissary, right?
That, and yeah, you can afford to hire the best attorney. I guess is one way to look at that too. Man, that is tough. And you know, my immediate thought was maybe the police officer is. It sounds like this was not the case. My immediate thought was the police officer is like, "Hey, maybe I'll take that ticket off your hands."
There you go.
I'm gonna fight you for it. But it sounds like that was not the case. Yeah, he's time to lawyer up, my friend, and hopefully get a good one down there in the Sunshine State.
That $167 million is the largest payoff in Kentucky lottery history. He was set to split the winnings with his mother, Linda Grizzle, who said it would be used to pay off debt. It's going to be a good Mother's Day, she said. Or not.
For her, it sounds like it still might be. And she's probably thinking, "Hey, you ain't getting none of my money. You got your own little share to get yourself out of trouble here now."
The pair had the choice of receiving 30 annual payments or take the cash option of $77.3 million. I think that the cash option is probably going to be the better option, particularly at this point, because again, Mr. Farthing needs legal counsel. So, Moving on, but staying in the legal realm, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Kids like Jell-O, so nothing necessarily wrong with taking Jell-O to a Christmas party for a bunch of fifth graders, right?
You wouldn't think, no.
Wrong.
I can see the appeal.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
wrong.
Teresa Isabel Bernal took Jell-O shots to her child's elementary school Christmas party, has been arrested for doing so, charged with injury to a child. She purchased the Jell-O shots from a home business she found on Facebook. The shots were laid out on a table along with treats students had brought to share in a cafeteria where fifth grade classes gather. You know, typical classroom Christmas party. 15 students consumed the shots. Nearly all reported having stomach aches and headaches. One student told police he vomited twice at school that day. Another said he passed out. One student reported that he had 6 Jell-O shots and got dizzy. When he returned to his classroom, he got dizzy and fell and felt like he could not get back on his feet. Bernal said she did not know the shots contained alcohol, but conceded they do taste different. She discovered the shots had alcohol only after the children had consumed some of them. Oh my goodness. If you are taking Jell-O to a Christmas party or to any party at school, you might just want to either A, make them yourself, or B, just make brownies instead.
Yeah, well, just be careful with those too. Let the record show. But I'm with you. We've reached the point in society you're not even making your own Jell-O shots. You're buying them from somebody else. And again, social media will get you. Yet again, you're creeping around on Facebook and somebody's selling Jell-O shots. They claim clearly labeled. Somebody's telling one right side of the story and somebody's lying here because she claims she didn't know. But according to this, the entity, they clearly advertise. So, I mean, you make them yourself, you at least know what you get into. I thought this was going to end, classic mix-up. Oh, I grabbed the wrong tray, or, oh, my husband, had a few last night and he swapped them by accident or something. No, you just flat. I mean, I don't know what your defense is here.
I don't know what your defense is here either once you bought them. So, yeah, that's Rot's a ruck there, Ms. Bernal. Where do we want to go from here? Let's stay with moms. Or let's stay with women anyway. In Pennsylvania recently, there was a road rage incident that resulted in a woman pooping on a car.
Okay.
A Delaware County woman is now in custody after she allegedly defecated on another person's car during a road rage incident that was captured on video. Not sure I want to see that, but anyway.
Don't you dare,
woman
Mark.
identified. No. Christina Solometo, in an incident that started when one driver cut off another. The other driver did not report the incident, but it was recorded, of course, and the video was posted to Instagram. Don't you dare, Mark. Police later identified Christina Solometo as the suspect. She was taken into custody, charged with indecent exposure, disorderly conduct, criminal mischief, harassment, and depositing waste on the highway. The local town's police chief told the local television station, I know it's being joked on a lot. There's all kinds of puns and innuendos online, but bottom line, we are treating it seriously. It can't happen in this community. No town wants this to happen in their town. The recognition a town gets over this kind of thing is really unwelcome. We don't want this.
That's indeed a DUI, deucing upon interstate, as Mark points out there. That is not good.
No, not at all. Not at all. Just keep driving, y'all. That's going to do it for Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Join us again tomorrow at 2:00. We look forward to it. Have a great Wednesday evening. We'll see y'all tomorrow.